If any of you haven't been to an Albion society before, what we try and do is bring together kind of seminal entrepreneurs who are kind of making something happen in society. And we just give them 10 minutes to tell us something interesting, and hopefully we'll all get something out of it. Mark Curtis is a face who I think I used to look up to in some respects. He'll probably be quite surprised by that. He was a very early founder into interactive agencies. Founded an agency that was bought by Razorfish, I think it's fair to say. He's now a serial entrepreneur, and he's doing both very interesting stuff in mobile, and he's keeping his hands dirty in other stuff too. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to...
Just a brief introduction. I got into digital in 93, 94, and built a company with a guy called Mike Beeston in London, which was called CHBI, which was one of the first kind of web-build internet agencies. And we sold that to Razorfish in 1998. In 2001, we left Razorfish and we set up a company called Fjord. Fjord is a now 140-person shop in 5 countries, doing service design for customers like Telefonica and the BBC and Nokia. And the NFL in America, and does some really amazing work. I'm still on the board there, but I don't spend very much time there because in 2005, we had one of those ideas which then span out of control into its own business, which was called Flirtomatic. And the idea started because we were asking ourselves a question, which was actually what we were trying to do. Some of you who are in agency land will appreciate this story, I suspect. We were trying to get inside Nokia's underpants, because we really, really wanted Nokia business. And we met this guy there, and he said, go away and come back in a month's time and impress me by showing me 5 big ideas about the future of mobile. So we went away and we brainstormed. And when we were having the brainstorm, we were talking about dating. Dating's pretty big on the internet, and it's growing very fast at the moment. Remember, this is 2005. What will dating look like when it went mobile? And we started brainstorming. We said, well, it's going to be faster, funnier, quicker. Forget all those 200-word profiles. There's not going to be any of that. It's going to be about rapid messaging, and some wit around the table said, we're describing flirting. And we all went, whoa, there's an idea. Because we'd all flirted on mobile using text messaging, or at least we all admitted, and most of the people in the room admitted they had. And we all thought, there's an idea. And that's where the product was born. We had the name Flirtomatic within a day. Nokia encouraged us to develop it, but didn't invest in it, but introduced us to a seed investor, and we really haven't looked back since then. So Flirtomatic is a flirting service. Think of it as like social networking to find people you don't already know, which is a big category, and we're not the only ones to see it. It's finding, flirting, and dating. We're on iPhone, Android, mobile internet, which is where we really started, PC internet. We have almost 4 million users, not quite, 3.8 million to be precise, in the UK, US, growing in Italy and Spain right now. We went to 1 million in the US in less than a year, which on mobile is pretty good going. We have, I think, fabulously sticky figures for engagement. According to ComScore, our average dwell time, so this is on the mobile, our average dwell time for a visit is 25 minutes, which I think is astonishing. In fact, when my CTO told me it was 25 minutes 3 years ago, I didn't believe him. And it was only when ComScore validated the figures that I got around to believing it was true. We do between 750 to 1,000 page views per customer per month. Again, that's on mobile, not on the web. It was when I saw those numbers, by the way, those numbers have been consistent for 3 years now, that I really, really believed that mobile was going to be bigger than the PC internet. And I still believe it is. And you know, now Mary Meeker and everyone else, and you know, you've seen a lot about that today. So I want to tell you a little bit. I thought I'd go a bit more theoretical and tell you what it's like from this developer's point of view of what's going on in mobile at the moment, and then finish on something really very theoretical indeed, but something which inspires me and I think is important. So one of the big things I'm beginning to see is that cross-platform is absolutely essential. I'm not sure I 100% agree with everything Ram said. I agree with most of it, but I do think you have to be cross-platform. And you know, things like integration into Facebook are now completely critical, and being on the web as well as on mobile is completely critical. There will be businesses that are able to have, undoubtedly, a glorious, successful business for a while just being mobile apps. But that wouldn't be a strategy I would persist in. I think you have to go across all platforms. So we're seeing, for example, one of the problems that we have, and we have a number despite the seeming success, is that it's still much, much easier to get vast numbers of users on the web than it is on mobile. So anybody really familiar with mobile will know that 4 million users that we have is actually a pretty good number. That's pretty respectable. On the web, it's crap. It's just nothing. And when you go and talk to VCs and you tell them you've got 4 million users on the mobile, they go, that's not very much. So it becomes very difficult to raise money off the back of that kind of thing. And eventually the story begins to come back to you that there are a lot of users out there who are much easier to acquire on the web than they are on mobile. Because where I utterly agreed with Ram is the number one issue for anybody in a mobile business at the moment is distribution. It is astonishingly hard to get mobile distribution, and everyone sees it. One of the things not many people know, it's a kind of dirty secret of mobile, is viral is impossibly difficult. And don't take just my word for it. Chatting with the head of mobile at Facebook recently, he said, viral simply has not worked for us. Now, Facebook is a company who have notoriously driven mobile internet usage through the roof, almost single-handedly, and have made a great success of mobile. But what they're also saying is most of their mobile users, almost all of their mobile users, become mobile because they convert from being a web user, and the light bulb goes on, they think, I think I'll get this on the mobile because I'd like to use it on the mobile. And that works. What they haven't managed to get working is any sense of virality. Virality on the mobile at the moment is more or less dead. Word of pub, that's big. So when you have a great service like TouchNote or Flirtomatic or Shazam, you can show people in the pub, that's super powerful and really, really works. But you can't send it to people easily. And if you're wondering why, one of the reasons, of course, is the user pays the price of distribution. So on the web, price of distribution, if you think about it, is almost completely free because it's email. On the phone, it's much harder to super distribute content to your friends. And if you're using SMS, you tend to pause at that stage and think, oh, hang on, this is going to cost me £1 to send it to my 10 best mates. Maybe I don't want to do this. And that tends to militate against viral. Also, cut and paste on most phones is still, a bit of a hassle. So we haven't really seen viral take off on mobile. So I'm a big believer in cross-platform. However, with cross-platform, you then get all kinds of difficulties coming in. So, I'd be interested to know Clive's point of view on this if we get to a discussion later on. But managing a developer team and trying to manage across several different platforms at once is a blinding headache and really slows you down. Now, we've actually made a mistake, which we're correcting at the moment, which is that we've tried to avoid doing that by sticking largely with the mobile internet strategy. Middle of last year, I realized that wasn't sustainable. Certainly not over the next 2 years. But I'm going to come back to this apps versus internet issue in a moment. Is this making sense, by the way? Am I talking? Okay, good. So the thing you've got is if you try and do an internet-only strategy on the mobile, at the moment, most phones don't deal that elegantly with HTML5, which means that you can't really create something which works brilliantly well on the touch screen. And therefore, you're delivering a subpar user experience. Again, Ram was right, user experience is absolutely everything. So at Flirtomatic, we spent quite some time resisting doing full-featured apps and we did something called web views, which delivers an internet through a framework of an app. It became clear to me in the middle of last summer that wasn't going to work anymore. So result, we got a new iPhone app, which should come out in about 2 weeks' time, which is fully featured for the touch screen, and we're going to do the same thing on Android within about a month and a half, and maybe other platforms. But when I look at the picture that Clive threw up, I felt jealous. I don't know how many developers he's got, but I simply cannot afford to do and maintain iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, and then Windows, and maybe Nokia as well, though of course the Nokia Windows thing is changing right now, because I just don't have enough bandwidth to do it. And what happens if I walk out of here this morning, I'm walking down the street and I think, God, got a brilliant idea for a new feature which is going to make us money. It's going to take me months to implement that on all those bloody platforms, and the web, and then iPad as well. And you then find funny things happening, like endless discussions with your board and with your senior and junior team, for that matter, about which platform do we do next. Somebody pops up in the board and says, we've got to do iPad. Why? Because they've got one and they and their wife have fallen in love with it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the iPad is the right thing to deliver a flirting app on. And you then have to go through that debate. So cross-platform complexity is a big, big, big issue in mobile right now. So I want to talk about one more thing. When I said I was going to go more well, two things. Firstly, app versus mobile internet. Right now, I would urge you not to throw away the mobile internet and go straight down the line of apps. Despite what I've just said, mobile internet has a lot of advantages to it. And I believe, and many other people do as well, that over the next 3 to 4 years, eventually the mobile internet will win out. It will look and feel in many ways like apps, but it won't actually necessarily be apps. But you know what? If you deliver it well, the consumer doesn't care. What they care about is have an icon they hit and they get a great service. The last thing I want to talk about is frame. So one of the things I believe strongly is that what marks out mobile from every medium that has gone before is its ability to break out of its own frame. If you think about every medium mankind has ever invented, it has had a frame. The book has a frame. It doesn't exist beyond the frame, it's all in the frame. Cinema has a frame. I cannot think of any film which has experimentally burst out of its frame. Theatre has a frame. In the 60s, Peter Brook in London, particularly with Midsummer Night's Dream, tried to break out of the frame and spread the play across the audience, notoriously, and it was very exciting and interesting and experimental. But by and large, theatre has stuck to the frame of the stage. TV has a frame. Even these have a frame. Mobile is going to break out of the frame. It's going to break out of the frame because right now, augmented reality and location-based services are beginning to map stuff onto the real world all around you. And that real world all around you, you're going to be able to see through this, but it's going to always suggest that there's a frame beyond. One of the things, side note, but it's important, one of the things I love about the way Windows have approached the design of Windows 7, for those of you who are familiar with it, is there's always a hint on every single page that there's something beyond the frame, which makes you want to scroll sideways on the thing. That whole sense that there is a world of media out there, viewable through this, smashes the frame. And that's a first for media. And I think over the next 20 years, and I'm talking that kind of time scale, you will see mobile become a dominant medium because of its power to go beyond the frame. It is the unique identifier of mobile, and we will see that come true over the next 5 years. Is that it? Fine. Thank you.